Welcome back to Kimmell and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox. As always, I'm joined by my good friend Dylan Kimmell. And it's good to be back. I had to miss the last episode thanks to being sick with the flu. My wife and I were both sick with the flu. So that was pretty rough. I felt so bad because I got her sick. I started getting sick and continued to work through it, which I probably shouldn't have done. I think it kind of made my symptoms worse, and I was like coughing and everything, and just kind of putting that out in the air, and before I knew it, Cynthia was sick too. So, but we got through it, and kudos to Dylan for keeping the podcast going in my absence. Really appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
It was a little different than what we're normally used to, but we made it work, and we still managed to get both of our opinions in there. I had to send you my notes via text.
It's not the Kimmel Show. It's Kimmell and Cox. So yeah, your voice had to be heard on that one.
But our apologies too for not having an episode last week. Just wanted to mention that. Again, that was totally my fault. We had a scheduling conflict. We had a space reserved to be able to record the podcast, and I totally forgot that I had an appointment that day at the same time, and I forgot to put that appointment on my calendar, and so it totally got everything screwed up. But we promise to do our very best not to do that again, because we've committed ourselves to putting out a new episode every week, and that's what we want to do. So going forward, we shouldn't have to worry about that.
Certain things could come up and everything, but
yeah.
But it's certainly one thing that we try to strive for is to just be,
consistent.
Yeah,
we want everyone, our viewers and listeners, to be able to count on that every week. And so in the future, if we run into anything like that, we will do our best to let you guys know ahead of time that we're not going to be having an episode that week, or if we have to take a break or whatever. But otherwise, we're going to try to keep trucking along and keeping this thing going. So today's episode, we are going to be reviewing the Indiana Jones franchise, which I'm looking forward to. Definitely a classic set of films from Steven Spielberg, the master. But before we get into that, I just want to remind everyone to be sure and follow us on our socials. We are on TikTok, Twitter, and of course right here on YouTube. I misspoke before in saying that we were on Facebook and Instagram, which we are not. Facebook is being kind of stupid right now. I've kind of been away from it for a while, so they've made some changes since I was last on Facebook. They make it a little bit more difficult now to have a professional page. You have to have a personal account. You have to have a regular account in order to have a business page, which is ridiculous. I think you should just be able to create, a professional page, and and that just be it. And so we ran into some difficulties there. We tried to create another account to be able to make that business page. And Facebook, I guess, thought that we weren't a real person or whatever, and so they ended up suspending the account, and now it's like permanently disabled. So, So I guess Facebook and Instagram are out of the question for right now, until we can maybe come up with some other kind of solution on that. But
that's all right. You can still follow us on Twitter and
still got TikTok and Twitter, YouTube. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Anchor, and RSS.com. So that's five different places where you can catch our podcast. So I feel like you have no excuse. You have plenty of places to listen to us or watch us.
Listen to us everywhere. I mean, there's nobody on this planet that doesn't have like Amazon or, one of those. There's like 5. Yeah, someone has those.
So you definitely have a lot of sources there, and we do have those links for you down below in the video's description. So be sure to check those links out, and more importantly, be sure to subscribe, like, and share because that is the thing that's going to help us out the most with this podcast. Is building up a following, and we definitely appreciate and need your support, and let us know what you think. We're just getting started with this, but we would really love to hear your feedback and just to know what you think of the podcast so far. Is there anything in particular that you would like to hear us discuss on the show?
Anything that we could improve upon on?
Absolutely. So yeah, honest feedback is always appreciated and welcomed, and you can leave us your comments and questions too. If you we always try to let everybody know ahead of time what we're going to be discussing each week. So if you have any comments or questions about that particular topic, then be sure to leave those questions either on our socials or comment on the video, on YouTube, and we'll try to look at those and maybe even try to answer some of your questions as we record the podcast. So be sure to do that, and that way you guys can get involved in the discussion too. But without further ado, let's get into Indiana Jones, a franchise that has been around for almost as long as I've been alive. It has been around for 41 years.
It certainly is one franchise that you thought might have died at one point, and then several decades later to come out with a sequel, and then another decade later, another sequel coming out here soon.
Just kept going. Yeah, it is relevant certainly to be talking about this now because there is another movie coming out. I think it's slated for June 30th of next year,
and it's the only one in the franchise not directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice there. I'm sure he's still involved. I'm sure he's still producing it.
Yeah, he's definitely still involved. He just handed over the reins to another director named James Mangold, which I don't know if you've seen any of his movies. He directed there's only 2. I mean, I know there's more, but the only 2 that I can think of are comic book ones: the Wolverine and Logan. So.
Actually, you were talking about that. In the last episode, you mentioned that he was going to be directing that.
Oh yeah.
He directed another movie that I had seen and I had forgotten about. I didn't realize that he had directed it, but Copland with Sylvester Stallone.
Oh wow!
Which is actually a really good movie.
I've not seen it. I've heard of it, but I've not seen it. No.
Yeah, he directed that as well. So he has a pretty long history in Hollywood too, because that movie came out in I think 97. So that goes pretty far back. But it'll be interesting to see his take on the character and what he does with that.
Yeah, and that's I did misspoke when I announced the title of that movie on that last
right. I think
I caught it afterwards, and I was like, "Oh crap! No! That's not the right title. That's not the title at all."
I think the first time, I think you said Indiana Jones and the Dial of Time, but it's actually Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny, which is funny because I recorded that before. I mean, I recorded that episode beforehand several times over. And I actually got the title right the first few times, and the one that's actually up is the one where I screwed up the name. I didn't catch it afterwards.
It's all right.
It happens.
Yeah. So can you remember the first time that you saw? We'll start with the first film. Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was released June 12th. 1981.
I have to tell you the truth. The first Indiana Jones movie that I saw was not the first one.
Okay. I wondered that. I wondered if you actually saw the first film.
The first one that I saw, it was actually in class. It was English class. And honestly, I'd never seen an Indiana Jones movie before. I was probably in, it was in middle school, or for some people that don't know that's also junior high, basically.
Yeah, it used to be junior high.
I say that like some person out there. Well, there might be someone that's slow and doesn't know it. But anyways, I was in English, and the teacher had put on the movie. We were going to write an essay on the movie or whatever. And I watched it. It was The Last Crusade.
Okay.
And I can tell you that all my English classes, I've only ever gotten like maybe a B or a C in, probably because I wasn't trying so hard, because once I did the essay for the Indiana Jones and Last Crusade, it was an A+. Because when the paper was sent in, I'm sad that I don't have that paper. I would probably have that out right now and read that entire essay.
It'd be interesting to see your go back and look at your perspective as a kid on that movie compared to
now, yeah. And it was definitely one of those. I mean, I guess that's what Steven Spielberg has, that effect on so many young people, or film aficionados or whatever. But it had such a huge impact me watching that one Indiana Jones movie. And then I was hooked. And then I went to Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. Actually, maybe a week or two later, I went with my mom to the store and bought the pack of at the time there was only the 3 movies. The Crystal Skull hadn't even been announced yet.
Yeah, that was a long way off.
And Crystal Skull didn't come out until I was in high school. But then that kicked off the whole watching all those. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, honestly, because Last Crusade was my first introduction to Indiana Jones, I cannot say that Raiders of the Lost Ark is my most favorite, because the first one I saw, but not to say that Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't like really good, because honestly, afterward, I don't know if you're one of those people that after you see a movie, you actually go out and get the novelization and then just read the novel.
I haven't done that. I haven't done that too often that I can recall.
When I was little, that's all I did was, once I got done reading the movie or watching the movie, then I'd read the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go and get the book and then read the book. And it's interesting, when you read the book, they actually add some scenes in there that might have been deleted from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or and not even in the deleted scenes in the. I mean, that they pick and choose what deleted scenes they want in there. Once I had read the book, reading the book is like a whole new experience. So I guess I kind of ate up all Indiana Jones stuff. Even wanted the little journal in Last Crusade that he had.
Yeah, right.
But back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, because I keep on going. But Raiders of the Lost Ark, I do remember just seeing that, and there's some really good stuff in there, honestly. I'm thinking on the different scenes, the villains in that one. The villains in that one were probably the most memorable out of all of them.
Yeah, I think so. I think they were more. They were definitely more sadistic and menacing. I feel like with the sort of the like torture and interrogation and stuff like that.
Yeah. They were definitely more vibrant, more. I don't want to say cartoony, but they were kind of cartoony in a way. The second one was more. Temple of Doom was more like a cookie cutter villain, and then the third one they were more like, we're good guys at first, and now we're bad guys. That kind of switcheroo. Like it was supposed to be like, oh, they're bad guys. But so Raiders of the Lost Ark was definitely probably the best in terms of the story arc, I'd say. And even the MacGuffin of the Ark of the Covenant was. The Ark of the Covenant is actually much more memorable of a MacGuffin than all of them, really, of the entire franchise. I can't think of... When I think of Indiana Jones, I do think of that Ark far more than I do the Sacred Stones. And
when you think about archaeology and just the study of those things, it's like, it doesn't get any more historical than something like the Ark of the Covenant, going back to biblical times and the significance of that, and I thought that was such a powerful thing that at the end, that when they finally found it, that just the with the spiritual aspect of everything, that like this, there was so much power surrounding this artifact that it's like you couldn't even look into the light or anything. It was like it would basically kill you. It was so because it was blessed by God. It wasn't meant to be seen or handled by anybody here, anybody on Earth.
Someone had brought up. I remember watching this one video, and it's a very interesting thing. Basically, here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you've noticed this, but after I heard this, I was like, "Huh, that is so funny." Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the few movies where if the hero was not in it, the story would play out the exact same.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Be less interesting of a movie, but
well, and this is common knowledge now, but I didn't know if you remembered that Harrison Ford was not actually the original actor considered to star as Indiana Jones. It was Tom Selleck.
Yeah, Tom Selleck. I actually remember watching the special features, and there was actually the
screen test. Yeah.
And I remember why it was Tom Selleck too. George, I believe it was George Lucas that said that he didn't want Harrison Ford to be in all of his movies. He didn't want,
because he had already been in American Graffiti and Star Wars, two of the Star Wars films, and I think he sort of broke that promise or whatever with Harrison Ford, because he said typically he didn't like to use the same actors over and over again.
And I think Tom Selleck would have done it if he didn't have he had TV obligations too.
Yeah, that was really the only reason that he couldn't do it. He couldn't fulfill the contract because he was already under contract with CBS to do the TV series Magnum PI.
I don't know if you know this, but there is a cartoon called Chip and Dale, or
I remember that, Chip and Dale
Rescue Rangers.
Yeah.
Did you know that the costumes that those little chipmunks, they're chipmunks, right?
Yeah.
What they wear is actually modeled after Tom Selleck's character in that TV show, and Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Now that you say that, it totally makes sense because I could see it. I can picture it in my head with I think it was Chip was the one that had the leather jacket and the fedora, and Dale had the Hawaiian shirt. So yeah, it's kind of funny that they that little homage, I guess, to those two characters. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I watched Tom Selleck's screen test, and you can look that up on YouTube. I'm sure it's out there if you want to see it. But I could easily have pictured him in that role. I think he would have done well with it. Would it have become as iconic as it is? I don't know, because because Magnum PI served him very well, and that show catapulted him to stardom in a different way. So I think it was one of those things where it was
things happened.
Things worked out the way they were supposed to. Yeah. Like Harrison Ford was meant to be associated with Indiana Jones, and Tom Selleck was meant to be.
And honestly, I'd say that Harrison Ford actually loves that role a lot more than he ever did Han Solo, because I remember him saying he wanted Han Solo to die in Empire Strikes Back. I'd say he loves Harrison Ford loves Indiana Jones a whole ton more because one, they have not killed Indiana Jones off, and two, even though in that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that they hinted of tossing the hat on over to Shia LaBeouf's character, that's not happening. One, probably because of all the backlash Shia LaBeouf gets, but also because it's Harrison Ford.
I remember him saying in an interview that he felt like there was more potential with Indiana Jones. There was more stories to tell, more life in that character, where Han Solo had already reached his potential. So he felt like he just needed to be.
I'd say that Harrison Ford is one of those actors that is just like, he's not wanting just the paycheck. He's actually wanting to serve the story, which is actually, I feel like we both are kind of like that too. We don't really, the paycheck's good.
It's always nice if you can get paid, but we do it more for the love of
if you end up doing it for the money, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah, you can't. If you're only doing it for the money or the fame or whatever, then I feel like you're destined to, at the very least, you're going to be unhappy because you're chasing after it for the wrong reasons. You have to do it because you enjoy doing it, because it's fun, and because you enjoy putting out a product that other people enjoy, that where you can. That was always the thing for me with wanting to become an actor, was wanting to impact other people, wanting to have the same impact that some of my favorite actors always had on me.
When was the when did you see Indiana Jones for the first time?
Raiders was the first movie that I saw in the franchise, and it was probably sometime in the 80s. because obviously I was a baby when the first film came out. So I didn't see it until several years later when it was sold to TV. I probably saw it whenever the first TV airing was, or one of the first TV airings. And of course, this was in the days when you only had 3 networks, unless you had cable or the premium movie channels like HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, and that kind of thing. So in those days, you couldn't even see a movie more than once. It's like once a movie was released in the theaters, the only way you could see it more than once was either to go back to the theater and watch it again while it was still, in its initial run, or wait for it to come out on video, which back then was a much longer process because VHS was still a very new thing. And
what was the other one? BMX, or what was?
Betamax.
Betamax, yeah.
And Laserdisc. Laserdisc was a thing for a while. But
now that we have all the
turnaround time was much slower on that. It's like sometimes a year or more for a movie to come out on video.
Yeah, this generation's spoiled with how easily accessible movies are now. Yeah.
Now they're already like streaming within like maybe 2 months after a movie.
I mean, not even like the one Rock Dwayne Johnson movie, Black Adam. It was in the movie theaters for maybe like a couple of weeks or so, and then boom, out on streaming. It's just like that. So.
But yeah, and that was actually kind of my experience with a lot of movies. Like the first time that I saw them was on TV. But obviously, you're not getting the full effect of it because they edit the movies for TV, due to content, or language or certain elements, and so I can't remember. I can't remember when the first time that I actually saw the movie in its entirety, like uncut.
Yeah, I imagine that it being on TV, it was cut up a little bit.
Yeah. But I probably, out of all the movies, I probably have seen Raiders more than any of the others. A close second would probably be Temple of Doom. I've probably seen those two more than any of the others, simply because back then I think those were the ones that were getting the most play, on TV and things like that. Seems like they were always on. But I remembered enjoying the movie. I guess I didn't get into that franchise as much as certain other franchises, but it was definitely an enjoyable movie, and I can remember watching it with my parents and
Did you see any of them in the theater?
The only one I saw in the theater was the last one, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That would be the one for me too. That was the obviously that would be the one for me because the other three predate when I was born. I'm pretty sure they do. When did The Last Crusade come out? That was probably in like
89.
Not so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it predates me. So out of all four of them right now, which one would you say is the weakest?
Probably. Probably Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, just because, there were things I liked about it. I knew that you were not really, a fan of that one, in particular.
Right.
There were some things that I liked about it, in terms of, they did some pretty cool things with, with some of the action sequences, but it got to a point where it was a little bit over the top. There was so much CGI used, in that movie, and a lot of it is very noticeable, partly because CGI had not evolved to a point that it has now. So you go back and watch that now, and you can totally tell. There are times when it almost looks like they've mixed animation with live action, and so it kind of took me out of it a little bit because the first three movies relied mostly on practical effects and stunts, and that's what I really go for in a movie is I want to, even if I know that it's a stunt performer that's doing the hard stuff, at least I know that like a real person actually did that. Even if it's not the actor, it still adds an element of excitement to it because it's actually happening in camera, on camera. So that was my biggest problem with the last movie. I think they tried to, obviously they wanted to appeal to a modern audience and what they felt like they wanted to see, but it kind of bordered on ridiculous a little bit at times because there had been such a gap between Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. There was 19 years between those movies, so Harrison Ford obviously had aged a lot between movies, and I think they wanted to maintain that sense of heroism and adventure and everything, but you're looking at the stuff they're doing, and you're
no way. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that one is probably the weakest.
With his advancement in age, are you kind of worried about the new one?
Because I haven't read too much about it, and I try not to do that because I don't want to spoil, the experience. I kind of want to go into it blind a little bit, but my fear with this next one would be that they try to do more of that. That they try to. I heard something about Harrison Ford. They were asking him if he was pleased with his character's look in this new film, and I didn't really get into the article or whatever, but it kind of made me think, have they tried to reverse age him to make him look younger for this film?
I don't know if I should answer that or not. Because like you said, you don't want to spoil anything or anything. So I'm not for sure if I should answer, but I do know the answer to that. So
I feel like if they do something like that, it's going to cheapen it. Now if it's a time travel sort of thing where he's actually going back, he's supposed to be going back into time when his character was younger, then it makes sense to do that.
Well, based on what I've been reading, because I have read, it is set after Kingdom of Crystal Skull. So if they do de-age or anything like that, then I would assume it would be either a flashback or like we said, time travel. Because a title like Dial of Destiny, you're kind of thinking, is this time travel? I don't know. It doesn't really say anything about time. I mean, there's a difference between destiny and time there. So, there is one thing. We haven't really talked about Temple of Doom really all that much. Temple of Doom is a very interesting movie. I mean, it's not one of my favorites, but it's a very interesting one in the fact that it is the reason why we have the PG-13 rating.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that that was the movie that introduced that.
Yes.
That rating.
Yeah, it was definitely the one that did it. Because I was watching. I learned that from watching the special features. Because I don't know if once you got a DVD, you'd watch the special features of every single movie or anything. Have you?
Yeah, I've always been interested in that stuff. So if there's bonus content, I always watch it.
Well, and that I do believe it. I don't remember who it was that said it. I don't remember if it was Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or who, but one of them said that they had received word, once the movie was out or anything like that, because the movie's rated PG. And family would go see it, and then they'd be horrified because of the dark scenes of him ripping the guy's heart out and all that stuff. And they were like, no, this movie should be rated R, And as I recall, Steven Spielberg went to the studio, the head office or whatever, and said to them, can we have something in the middle between PG and R? Because I don't feel like this is an R-rated movie. He's right. It's not.
I mean, it was certainly, it had some graphic elements to it, but it definitely wasn't deserving of an R rating. There wasn't a lot of profanity. There wasn't nudity or anything like that, in there. It was really more just the violence. So an interesting thing about Temple of Doom, which I don't know if you ever caught this or not. I'm sure you did, but one of our favorite actors has a little cameo.
Oh, really?
Dan Aykroyd actually appears in the film.
Oh,
but it's hard to catch him because, like nowadays, when you think of a cameo, it's a very obvious cameo. But in his case, you could barely even see that it was him. The camera was like pulled so far back from him. But anyway, towards the beginning of the movie, when Indy and Willie are getting ready to board the plane, the guy that escorts them from the car to the plane is Dan Aykroyd. And if you go back and watch that, you can definitely recognize the voice right away. He speaks with like an English or a British accent, but it's obviously Dan Aykroyd. But the camera never gets in close to him to where it's like really obvious that it's him. And I didn't know that for years.
That is
I didn't
crazy.
know that he was in the movie. It was just a quick little scene, which is it was funny because Temple of Doom came out the same year as Ghostbusters. It was like it was before. It was like Temple of Doom was released May 23rd, 1984. Ghostbusters was released June 8th. So they were real close together. But I thought that was funny that he appeared in that.
I did not know that. I'm going to have to look at that.
Yeah, definitely going to have to go back and check that out. Temple of Doom, I think, it probably next to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That one is probably my next least favorite of the franchise.
I'd have to agree. Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with the character of Short Round. Like I don't know why, but I thought that kid was annoying. Like I
honestly, I found like both of his companions were annoying. Honestly.
Yeah, Willie was she was a different sort of character
Yeah.
than Marion, in Raiders.
Like
she was a little bit more.
Marion was more was definitely one that wasn't a damsel in distress.
Right. She was tough.
Yeah.
She could hold her own. Willie was definitely more of that traditional damsel in distress. Like where she was afraid. She was afraid of everything. She screamed at every little thing.
Yeah, that got really annoying.
So
I'm thinking of that one scene in Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom when the walls are coming down and everything. I just see Harrison Ford's like, we are going to die.
Yeah, it's great. It's like,
and I'd feel like I'd be
hurry up. It's like just do it.
I feel like I'd be just as
Oh yeah, it'd be just as frustrated if you're in that situation. It's like, okay, I get it. You don't like gross things. You don't want to reach your hand in there.
I'd say
it's like, but if you don't do it, we're going to die.
See, Temple of Doom takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark, so
Right.
I'm going to have to say that maybe Indiana Jones. After that, he's like, yeah, I'm splitting away from you guys because you all are annoying. Because he in all the sequels, he never mentions them again. Nothing.
Yeah. So yeah, that one was, even though it had some great scenes, I love the climactic chase, the minecart chase at the end. That
one was pretty good. As a matter of fact, I do think, the ending was very creative. The way the ending of Temple of Doom was really, really creative. It's still probably not the best ending out of all of the franchise either, because it ends on the side of a cliff, basically.
Right.
Which is not that exciting to me. But it was spectacular how they were able to do that too, because watching the special features and how exactly they tore that bridge apart, and then
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was definitely exciting. There were great moments for sure in that movie. I felt like it didn't quite stand up to Raiders or Last Crusade, which talking about Last Crusade, which was the first of the movies that you saw. It's interesting because that one, next to the original, was probably the next best one out of the franchise, and
it's very
and now I could have seen that one in the theaters because it came out in 1989, so I was like 8 years old.
Yeah. Could have. So you didn't.
So I chose because I can't remember if I had already seen the other two by then or not. I might have seen Raiders already.
Well, if it was 1989, then you have a couple of movies that came out that year that you probably would have been like, I would rather see that one instead.
Yeah, that's really what it came down to. Because
was it Back to the Future Part 3?
89
No, that was 1990,
was a
wasn't
big year for movies. Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters 2, that one came out
that summer.
Batman came out.
Back to the Future.
Was it Part 2?
Part
2, yeah.
But oddly enough, I didn't see that either because I didn't even. We'll definitely have to get into that when we because trust me, we're going to devote a whole episode to Back to the Future. But
we will definitely do that.
But I actually didn't see any of the Back to the Future films until all three of them had already been out. I think it was in sometime in 1990 when I saw the first Back to the Future, even though it was already 5 years old at that point. The third movie had come out that same year, but I guess it was just at the time I was more into Ghostbusters was the big thing for me. Yeah. Batman also came out that summer. So movies like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade sort of got, like I feel like everybody kind of has their certain franchises that they really tend to to gravitate towards, and even though I enjoyed the Indiana Jones films, it wasn't one of my it wasn't one of my top.
It wasn't on your radar,
so it was more of a choice of I just chose not to see that at that time.
It's more of those movies that you were probably thinking that looks pretty good. I'll watch it when I don't have anything else to watch.
Yeah, it's like I came to appreciate them more later. I think, as opposed to when I was a kid.
I would say I am definitely the opposite, because once I saw that for the first time, obviously I got that A+ on there, so you could probably tell just that by me saying that story alone that I ate it up. And I'd say maybe it got me wanting to be more adventurous, explore places. Maybe even spark a little bit of interest of maybe archaeology at some point, Archaeology. That's a funny thing. How many people do you think, after watching Indiana Jones, was like, I want to be an archaeologist, and got onto that field and been like, this isn't what I thought it would be. I thought we'd be chasing Nazis and stuff.
I'm sure. I think, especially for people like us, a lot of our views of different things, different professions and stuff.
And we're all fantasized by movies.
They're influenced.
Influenced.
By what we see in movies, and because you hear people all the time say, "Well, I wanted to be a police officer because I saw a certain movie," or I wanted to be an astronaut or a firefighter or a race car driver or whatever it might be. So movies definitely impact us in that way.
I do remember seeing some sort of interview where an actor actually said that. He said that, I can't remember what actor it was. If you know, then you'll probably let me know. But he said that he had watched a certain movie. It might have been Indiana Jones, actually. And he got into that field and he realized, this is not what I wanted to do. This is not as exciting as I thought it would be. And then he started realizing, like, you know what? It's what he did that I wanted to do, which is act. So he ended up being an actor.
Well,
and honestly, that probably is like the best profession for someone who, doesn't know exactly what they want to do, be an actor, because you get to be everything.
Oh yeah, I mean, even Harrison Ford himself said that because when he, I think when he got the role of Han Solo, I think he was working as a carpenter.
Yeah.
At that time, he'd already done some acting.
He wasn't even auditioning. He was just reading lines for the other actors. Yeah.
And he said he quickly realized that he looked around at all of these other guys that were just working these normal 9-to-5 kind of jobs or whatever, and they were just they would work till they were 65 or whatever, and then retire and then die.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that life didn't seem appealing to him. He said being an actor was much more exciting because you get to play all these different types of characters and roles, and we kind of touched on that a little bit in our first episode where for me it was like that. It just seemed like that would be the best job you could have in the world, because it allows you to pretty much be anything you want to be. You can get to play all these different things, and it does present challenges too, because these actors, especially doing movies like this, high adventure movies, it presents different types of challenges, physical challenges, and working long hours, and it's not acting is not always easy. People think, oh, anybody can do that, but it still presents challenges because you have to do all these things, but then you also have the director who wants their vision to be carried out in a certain way. So you have to, they want to see something very specific in the camera. So you have to make sure that you're moving in a very specific way, and sometimes it probably feels awkward to the actor because you're like, this doesn't seem natural to me, but it looks good on camera. And so those are all things you have to consider when you're in the business. But it's fun. When you get to see the end result of that, you realize that all that hard work was worth it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I do say, like, once because I'd say that maybe you feel that same way sometimes when you're on a project or anything, and then you get home, you're like, oh man, I'm exhausted. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then later on, you're like, okay, yeah, well, when's the next one? I'd say, like, any job like that, any career like that, where you're like, I'm so exhausted, I don't know if I want to do it. And then the next day you change your mind completely, and you're like, I want to do it again. That's probably the career for you,
Yeah. But, I was just thinking, though, that, Last Crusade was a good movie for you to start with in the franchise because...
Oh, yeah.
Just the presence of Sean Connery alone, that's one of the things that put it way up there for me because and
he's not even playing
familiar with Sean Connery through James Bond.
Right.
He's still the best James Bond ever in my opinion.
He's not even playing a macho character in that neither. He's playing...
No, that's what's funny. It's like it's comical that it's like you really see like the father-son relationship between the two of them, and it's almost like a teenager who is annoyed by his goofy father who's like clumsy and keeps kind of screwing things up.
It seems such a shame that I don't even recall seeing Sean Connery doing so many more comedies or anything like that, because honestly, he's got a sense of humor. I mean, you can see it in that.
Yeah, you could really see it in that movie in particular. I can't recall him doing very many comedies in his career. I think one of his earliest films before he did Dr. No, which was the first James Bond film, he did a Disney film called Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which I haven't seen. Mm-hmm. But I guess it was a
I've seen the posters for it and everything. I'm scrolling through like whatever Disney website I was on. I've not seen it either, but I've seen the advertisements.
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely has a knack for comedy too.
I would say that his Henry Jones Sr. is probably one of my favorite father characters in a movie, just because of how humble he can be, and he has a sense of integrity. You can't really, and the humor between them, Indiana Jones and his dad, is also very funny. Because just the one scene where Indy's like gunning down all these Nazis, and then his father's like, "I can't believe what you did! Look what you did! Look what you did!" And honestly, I would have loved to seen even more sequels with just Indiana Jones and his dad.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that will. But then again, maybe that's the beauty of, because if you outplay something, then it just becomes stale, So maybe that's the beauty that they only did one with him.
Yeah. Because you had other characters that did return in the other movies. I thought it was interesting that because a lot of sequels try to put every character they try to have all of the same characters come back for every movie.
Oh yeah.
But with Indiana Jones, they didn't really do
No,
that.
the only
there were there were gaps like
which honestly that seems more like real life too. You don't really stay.
Yeah, you don't always stay connected to the same people throughout your life, but sometimes people come back into your life, just like Marion came back in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and you had the character's name is eluding me now, but
is it the
John Rhys Davies was in
Sala? Is it Sala?
Sala, yeah. Was in he was in
in
Raiders and Temple of Doom.
He's going to be in the new one.
And he's going to be coming back in the new one. So it's like there were these gaps in between there, but like where they would still they would bring back a character or two, but they didn't try to. It was good because they didn't necessarily try to make lightning strike twice, which is what a lot of sequels do. It's like, well, we'll just bring everybody back for the sequel. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I'd say that the best way to make a sequel is to not make the sequel. Not saying that the sequel. You understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Don't think of it as a sequel. Think of it as a new movie.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You have to kind of look at it as a new chapter. Mm-hmm. It's because it's the same character, but it's like a new chapter in their life. Mm. It's a new adventure, and there's always a way to do something a little bit different the next time around. If you have really compelling characters that you want to watch over and over again. They have a life to them, and you feel like you want to watch them progress, and
that's another thing that's kind of funny. When a comedy makes a sequel, it doesn't work out because they do the same jokes.
Yeah, there is
I feel like
they fall into that trap.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you were to make a sequel, it goes with anything. Like we've been saying, you don't even try to make lightning hit strike twice, because it's not going to happen. Very rarely does it happen. Treat it like a new one, because people want to see those characters. They love the characters, what they did in the last one and everything like that, but they loved how they interacted with that. So they want to see them interact with a new set of issues. Yeah. And I'd say that would be what makes the sequel good. Is how they interacted with that new problem.
And it's interesting to watch characters age.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's another element that is interesting with a sequel, especially if they have the kind of longevity that Indiana Jones has had.
Yeah.
Is to watch these characters grow old and to see. How do they do things differently in their old age?
It probably doesn't work so well with a comedy, but it certainly works well with, maybe, with an adventure or maybe an action or something like that, seeing the age progress. Because I'd say like a comedy would stick to that time period. But definitely seeing that it's quite... what's the word I'm looking for? It's I had it and I lost it. Well, it'll come to me afterwards, but
but I know what you're trying to say there.
Yeah.
But hopefully this new movie will not disappoint, and I personally I hope it does not go the way of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I hope they go back to the basics and what made the earlier films so good, and using using practical effects and stunts and things like that to make the action believable.
If it's to be the last one, then I would much rather it end similar to how Last Crusade ended, which Last Crusade was supposed to be the ending, which is just to end it with, the hero going out into the sunset, like perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of what you want to see. You want to see that character going out on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see in about 6 months. We'll see what happens there. But we are just about out of time. It really goes by fast when when you're talking about something that you enjoy, and it's a little tougher sometimes, especially when you're dealing with a whole franchise.
Yeah.
And we probably easily could have devoted an episode to each movie.
I would say so. Maybe when we do Back to the Future, we split it up.
I think when we start getting into those, I think we're going to have to dedicate individual episodes to each movie, because there's just so much that we could
especially with Back to the Future and Ghostbusters. We
right.
Yeah.
But before we go, I wanted to remind everyone about our Patreon page. Just want to encourage you all to check that out again. Every dollar that you donate goes towards things like production costs, just to try to make this a better podcast for you all. It's definitely it's not always cheap to really make something the best that it can be, to look the best that it can, and so we can use your support to help with things like better cameras, better software, just better equipment, better microphones, everything. Finding a permanent studio space, which is something we're still looking for, just to look the most professional that we can be, and so you guys have something really entertaining and much better visually to look at, and so you all can really make a difference with that. So be sure to check out that Patreon page. We have a lot of really cool benefits on there. We have memberships starting as low as $5 per month up to $100 per month, depending on where your financial situation is and what you're able to help with. Every little bit helps, and we're just like most of you out there. We have day jobs in addition to doing this, and we do this because we really enjoy it. We love it. But we can definitely use your support to make this as great as we believe it can be. So definitely check that out. And next week we are going to be talking about Knives Out, which there is a new movie coming out. It premieres on Netflix this Friday, December 23rd. Had to think for a second there. But there's a new movie coming out called Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery. So I thought with that new movie coming out, it would be pretty cool to talk about both of the Knives Out movies, and so be sure to come back and watch and listen next week as we talk about those movies. And in the meantime, we hope that everyone has a wonderful Christmas, and just be sure to take the time to remember what's important, spend time with your families and those that you love, and let them know how much you appreciate them. So until next time, be good to yourselves.
You dipstick.